Boxing Talk. It's been a minute, my guys. Bad boys of boxing. Marcus Willis, Devin Jackson. How you guys doing tonight, man?
Doing good.
Doing good, man. Doing good. Staying busy.
Got you. You know, always a lot going on in boxing, including Caleb Plant recently. You know, he's been making noise for a lot of years, from becoming this contender to, you know, upsetting the odds in a lot of people's eyes by winning the title, and then continuing to defend his title. He defeated Caleb Truax by unanimous decision. He wants a fight with Canelo Alvarez. Is that realistic? How much of a chance would you give him? What do you think of his last performance?
I think it's very realistic, and I think it needs to happen. I think of that fight as probably a 50-50 fight. And he looked good considering there was a layoff, you know, because of COVID. I think he tired just a little bit toward the end, but, you know, he kept his composure and he got through it. He looked good. He did what he had to do.
Man, Plant looked sharp as ever. Dude is nasty, bro. His speed is crazy. His jab was so sharp. His combination punches was really good. He mixed it up very well and just, you know, he controlled the fight. Now, I wouldn't say that a Canelo fight would be a 50-50 fight. Canelo is still, you know, one of the baddest out there. That's a lot to that's a big bite to chew, you know, for anybody. Even though Canelo's moving up and away from that fight, but you've seen what he's done with light heavyweights, you know, like Kovalev. So I don't look at it as, you know, Caleb Plant being a super middleweight and being bigger than Canelo and making it an easy fight, or, you know, like Canelo is really tough, you know, and he brings a lot of pressure, a lot of game, a lot of skill, and, you know, Plant's not the biggest puncher. He has hella speed, but it'll be a tough fight. I see it as an exciting fight, but it's gonna be a tough fight regardless. But, you know,
the reason I say it's the reason I feel it's 50-50, I look at it as Canelo's very strong, even at 160, even at light heavyweight, as we saw. But I feel like he's reverting back to how he used to be at 160, where he tends to fatigue after about 5 or 6 rounds. Mm-hmm. And if you go at his pace and you don't set the pace, he has an easier time. But if you set the pace, and with that footwork Plant has, I think he can upset those odds and even that out pretty good.
You know, after every fight, there's always a lot of opinions from boxing people. You know, going on Twitter and the boxing forums and all that, you see that Caleb Plant, not everybody was sold on his performance. I agree with both you. He looked very sharp and solid. And I look at him as a fighter who's going to be able to bring more to the table as the competition gets stiffer, meaning he'll bring more of his game against Canelo, in my opinion. But a lot of people, for whatever reason, they even had some polls and stuff about does he have a chance in Canelo? And a lot of people, they just don't feel he's ready. That's not me speaking. That's the general public from what I'm kind of looking at. I mean, what do you feel about people who feel like, you know, he might not be ready for Canelo?
I think at this point in Plant's career, I think he's ready for it. Win or lose, you know, I think he's ready.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he's not ready. Like, what else is there for him to do? Who else is there for him to fight right now? You know, go for the big fish. He's at a point in his career where he deserves those big fights. That's a fight that, you know, most people, when they get in the ring, you don't know if you're ready for it until you're in there. So you just have to, you know, prepare for it, just like a championship fight, any championship fight, and, you know, give it your best. It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight. So I see why people would say that he's not ready. Caleb is still kind of, you know, he's still a fresh name to the big names in boxing, you know, and Canelo's been around for a while. So if you look at the longevity of their names being a household name, then that's a big comparison. It's a big gap between that. But I think he's done his work to get a title fight, to get a big fight like this, you know, superstar fight like this with Canelo.
Gotcha. And there is even an article I read they're talking about, what about if Canelo, he has the fight on the February 27th versus Yadrin, and then he looks to be fighting Billy Joe Sanders on May 8th. And someone said, well, if playing, should he stick around and wait all that time, or maybe he should fight David Benavidez? Do you think that is a fight that he could take to that, give him more experience before Canelo, or do you think he kind of wait for that big cash cow opportunity?
I don't think he should hold up, his career. He's on fire right now. He's in his prime. I think a fight with David Benavidez is pretty damn good. I think that should be the next step if he can't get Canelo right now.
Who do you favor in that one?
I think I favor Plant. I think Benavidez he's too flat-footed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Plant and a Benavidez fight, I'll take Plant because he's a lot more versatile, has a lot more boxing ability and skill. Now, Billy Joe Saunders, that's a different story. I think Billy Joe, he takes all of them, I think Billy Joe will go in there and smack the shit out of Canelo as well. So I would like to see that fight. But, and then one thing that Devin said, Canelo has, kind of reverted back to his old ways, because I used to always time out Canelo's fights. He would always get tired in the seventh. The seventh round was the round that he had no energy. Now, another thing is Canelo hasn't been fighting up to par, up to his level. So when you're fighting people that aren't your level, you're probably not training with the same intensity as well. I think he gets a Caleb Plant in front of him. If that fight is made, or a Billy Joe or a Benavidez fight is made, then Canelo steps up his training camp and, he trains a little bit harder. Which, you should always train like you're training for your toughest fight regardless. But I think with that kind of opposition in front of him, he definitely steps up his training, But Billy Joe Sanders.
Hey, we got to talk about Billy Joe Sanders because he looked good his last fight. And if Canelo wins this month, it's looking like May 8th is a tentative date for Canelo and Billy Joe Sanders to fight. That is a tricky matchup, a tough matchup. I mean, break down that fight, Canelo and Billy Joe Sanders.
Honestly, the only reason I don't say 100% Billy Joe is because throughout his career, sometimes he just won't train right, and then he'll come in looking like crap. But when he actually puts in that work and dedication, dude is amazing. And I agree. If he comes in 100%, I think he will smack Canelo up easy.
Billy Joe, he's a hell of a boxer, hell of a puncher. He sets you up. He's sharp. I think his ring IQ is on a very high level. So I think he can. Canelo is great in the ring too, but I think if Billy Joe is at the top of his level, I think the better Billy Joe beats the better Canelo, in my book.
It's really interesting, really. And then there's some other news going on in boxing, just headlines, stuff like that. The exhibitions have really caught fire from Mike Tyson and Roy Jones to, the Jake Logan Paul. He might be fighting Mayweather or not, but they're talking. Zab Judah, read an article. He's talking maybe Mike Tyson, Vander Holyfield Part 3 in Dubai. Do we need to see that? Would you guys watch that?
I feel like I want to say yeah, but I'm like, it's kind of messed up. You got these old heads out there fighting like that. That old Mike Tyson might come out. He might bite him again. I would like to see it. I'm not gonna lie, I would like to see it. But Evander's been active, consistently. He's never out of shape. So, I think I'll have to go with Evander on that one. But it will be nice to see.
I don't want to see it, man. I don't
want to see it.
No, it's too late, man. Like, I mean, when them old dudes gonna get hurt bad, bro. Like, we don't want our legends to die in a ring,
That's true.
And at that age, and both of them are still intense. It's your body's respond a different way with that kind of impact and ruling activity, man. So I think they've done what they've done. They like leave that stamp and don't. I think we need to 2020 need to be stuck back there in 2020. We had the Tyson and Roy Jones fight. Leave it at that. I think we need to stop picking at these old guys and like getting them in the ring, man. It's too much. I mean they've had their time. Give it up. Give it up.
Stand on rocking chairs.
Give it up, man. Give it up. Sip some lemonade and talk about boxing. Don't get in there no more.
No, a really interesting fight coming up is a guy, Marcus, you shared the ring with Pat Teixeira, a WBO junior middleweight champion. He's going to be fighting Brian Castano. That's a tremendous matchup, pretty excellent, I think. What do you guys think about that matchup?
Yeah, I actually I was just looking at a couple highlights and everything. I think Teixeira is going to win this fight. It's gonna be a scrappy fight. Castano comes with a lot of pressure. He's relentless, but I think he's too wild to where he's gonna be open for a lot of shots. And I don't think that he's as big of a puncher as Carlos Adames. Not as big as puncher and not as big in size either. So I think that Teixeira will definitely have a good night. It's going to be a scrappy and interesting fight, but I think Teixeira is a little bit too calculated. I think Castano's going to run himself into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. I think Teixeira, he's got the natural height. He can definitely box a hell of a lot better than Brian. What Brian has going for him is he's relentless. Physically, he's strong. He can take a decent punch, but he does have a very reckless offense, which has been his game. As long as Teixeira will box him, use his feet, he'll turn him into shots all night. Just don't tussle with him. Don't get into a scrap with him. Just box him.
That's the funny thing, though. Teixeira likes a scrap. So.
Dude, I just don't want him to give the guy a chance.
It'll be it's gonna be a nice little war.
The guy make a lot of headlines lately is Ryan Garcia. First, there's talk about him and Pacquiao. Now it looks like he might be facing Javier Fortuna. If he faces Javier Fortuna, what would you think of that fight?
I think that's a good matchup, especially right now for Ryan. Javier Fortuna is he's a go-getter, but I think he's a little bit too wild, a little bit too open. He might try to rough Ryan up early, but he'll walk into a big shot. I'm sure of it. Ryan's settling down. He's more comfortable in the ring now. I think that's a fight he should pull off.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I think Fortuna's a hell of a fighter, very exciting fighter. I remember when him and Derek Wilson fought, and he impressed me back then. So, but now I think Ryan Garcia has definitely he's perfected his craft, and I think Fortuna is still he's still not fully seasoned. There's a lot of mistakes and a lot of flaws in his offense, and I think Ryan will definitely catch him with a lot of openings and everything. Fortuna, sometimes he'll hang himself out to dry, and I think Ryan will dry him. So it'll be a good fight for a little bit, but with what Ryan's been doing, a lot of these top opposition fighters that he's been getting rid of them. And I think Fortuna will probably jump into something that he won't be ready for.
In general, there's a lot of talk going on even with Devin Haney. Not everybody was sold on his last performance against Gamboa, but he's still, really young coming up. Eddie Hearn has said, if because they're talking maybe Ryan Garcia or Fortuna against Devin Haney, but if those two fight each other, Eddie Hearn has said he would like to see Devin Haney face Jorge Linares. Devin Haney, Jorge Linares, is that the right fight to make right now?
No, I don't think Devin's ready for that yet. I could be wrong. Devin's extremely talented. He's got the skill, but right now I don't think that's a veteran he should go crossing paths with right now in his career.
Yeah, that's like Canelo getting in with Mayweather.
Yeah.
Devin is super talented, but Linares is super talented and super seasoned. So I don't think that's a smart fight for Haney and his camp right now. I think they'll regret putting him in there with a fighter like Lanaris. I don't see him, I don't see him winning that fight at all. Lanaris is too sharp.
There's been a lot of headlines, Deontay Wilder, after his loss to Tyson Fury, eventually got rid of Mark Breland. They've been kind of going back and forth online, saying things about each other. Is it disappointing to see these two guys kind of going at each other after having years of success together?
It is, man. It's actually kind of heartbreaking, especially the way Wilder did him, after the fight with the second Tyson Fury fight. The guy's been there the whole time with you through thick and thin. Dude saved his life, and he's treating him that way. I mean, that's no good, man. You need people in your corner that care about you. That's their job. Your job is to fight. A fighter's always going to think he can go on. That's why you have a corner to make that call, and Mark Breland made that call. And he's been going back and forth with him this long and insinuating that he drugged him and all this crazy stuff. And it's just like, man, nah.
It's outlandish, bro. Like, very disrespectful to have a legend like Mark Breland in your corner, and him giving you that kind of knowledge and protecting you as well. And like, the dude knows what he's doing. Mark Breland is one of the most decorated amateur boxers ever. So it's super disrespectful and sad to see, and it's, I don't get what processed in his mind to even think that Breland's trying to set him up like that. Breland's been with him since the amateurs. I wouldn't say since the amateurs, but since his walk through the Olympic trials and everything. So it's very disrespectful and very disgusting as a fighter to see. So he lost. I mean, he's lost a lot of my respect with that right there.
Got you. And they're talking Wilder may possibly, there's little rumblings, him and Charles Martin. I don't know how serious that talk is. If we'll see that fight, is that a dangerous fight for Wilder at this point?
I think that's a good matchup for Wilder. Wilder's still Wilder. What makes Wilder is his power, and he always brings that. All he needs to do is do something right a few times, and it's lights out. That's been the case in all his fights. Almost everybody he's ever stepped in the ring with had more skills than him, but he just needs to set up a right hand, and that's it. So
I don't think Martin is the kind of fighter that should be in there with Wilder. Wilder's a different kind of beast, and
Wilder's gonna hurt him.
Yeah, Wilder would hurt Martin. He's not, it's definitely levels, So I think that's a easy knockout victory for Wilder, regardless of who's in the corner. But definitely Mark Breland won't be there.
Got you, man. Well, good catching up. Is anything? I don't know if there's anything else on your guys' mind as far as boxing goes. That's kind of what I had my little plate of topics and questions for today.
Does Canelo still have the WBO light heavyweight title?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Because I'm wanting to see an undisputed light heavyweight champ.
I think Joe Smith is going to fight for that belt. Joe Smith, he beat Alvarez, and I think he's fighting for that belt.
Okay.
Maybe this month even.
Yeah, Joe's actually fighting this weekend. I just didn't know he was fighting for a belt.
Yeah,
it might be an eliminator for the belt, but something like that.
He's fighting a Russian guy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a good fight for him.
He's a good fight. Him and Better Bia, that would be a good matchup.
Yeah, that is a pretty good matchup. He's got some height, but he'd have to be very careful in there and close with Better Bia, though.
Pleasure, man. I will definitely be catching up with you guys soon. The Fat Boxing Show, man. It's always a pleasure talking boxing with you guys.
Cool.
Sure.
Fat Boxing Show, Hustle Boss. We out.
All of the lights.